Okay, welcome to the broadcast. The broadcast of manic deities, the black dog of depression, the angels of equilibrium. Welcome to this new project, this bipolar project. Many think it crazy to start a podcast or a broadcast in the year 2024. But this is, and hopefully will turn out to be, a bit of a history of madness in our lives, in literature and philosophy. And it takes a bit of madness to start a podcast in 2024, and here we are attempting to do so. So welcome. I'm B1 for the moment, and I'm joined by B2.
Hello, everyone out there.
So we're starting a little project called Order Bipolar, a working title, a potentially subversive name. I was thinking about potential names. Bipolar matters. It's a very common trope in the podcast world to put matters as a suffix. Bipolar conversations, mental health conversations, but I think there's something a bit subversive, provocative with Order Bipolar. So we'll see if it stays that way. So we're recording in April of 2024, Melbourne. And yeah, we're hoping that this is something, I think, for both of our benefits, but perhaps we'll find an audience of, to start with, some family, some friends, and who knows? Where do you think this could go, B2? How big could we get?
B1, so good to think big. A person's reach should always extend beyond her grasp. Something my father used to say, actually using the male gender as reference, but yes, let's aim high.
You know what, I was thinking just on a walk earlier at the kind of minimalist and maximalist possibilities, and I think the maximalist one is pretty clear, and that's we reach psychiatric professionals, we start our own clinic, our own hospital. I think the maximalist version sees us in months and years with our own clinic. I think the minimalist one is still probably a good one, where we reflect on our own experiences and reflect on the general experience of mental illness, mental wellness, manic depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, depression, mania. I think they're fascinating subjects. I think we've both probably got a few anecdotes to say, but I think in the literary world, in the world of cinema, you see these projections of depression and mania in so many works of art. I was watching Master and Commander earlier today. Have you seen that?
No, only Snatches on a Plane. Very good looking film with the large ships up close and the heave of the swell.
Yeah, it's a great boat movie. But there's a lieutenant who captures some thinks he's cursed at one point. All the shipmates turn on him, and he ends up dropping into the sea with a cannonball. And there's Russell Crowe, who I think really captures a certain obsessive, manic compulsion at times. And there's the Joseph Banks character, the botanist, who is the kind of yin to his yang, and they're great. They love to jam on the violin and cello. Unfortunately, you can see quite clearly that they're not actually playing the instruments. One of the few flaws. But a great film, a real display of how toxic masculinity can power ships, amongst other things, and great propaganda for the British Empire and maybe the modern British Navy. Anyway, I just you see it all around you. You see it in the CBD of Melbourne on clear display. You see it in the halls of justice. You see it in art. You see mental health explicitly, implicitly all around us, and it'd be fascinating to record a few conversations, explore some ideas and some personal histories. So those are my maximalist, minimalist visions. This is kind of unprepared, unscripted, but what's your minimalist vision for what we could achieve here?
I think conversation about the experience of bipolar is something I would value. Two people who know each other well, that's B1 over there, and B2 in my head.
B1 or T1, T2.
Sharing our experiences, I think, will be worthwhile. I'm not sure that we can go as far as you've suggested with the maximalist.
We could inspire health professionals.
Sure. I would like to, I suppose, start B1 with an account of your time with bipolar and what you think you've learned.
Yeah, we might, because we are conscious. I'm a devotee of the Pomodoro method and recently bought a little Pomodoro timer that I've set for 15 minutes. We might not. I thought maybe we could do some more biographical stuff in a future episode. Today I thought we'd just discuss off the cuff what, some things we might be able to talk about. We had dinner recently with some friends who run a philosophy school in Melbourne, the Independent School of Philosophy, and they have long flirted and even overpromised a regular recording to update their many subscribers. And I kind of challenged them, saying, "Look, we're gonna start a bipolar podcast," and I think with a vision of perfect being the enemy of the good. In that we are here, I've found my mum's Yeti microphone, plugged it into Audacity on a PC, and I've got a little an old iPhone that's recording separately, and I'll judge later what's a better recording. But I think even in discussing with these philosophers of Melbourne, the opportunities that are there and some great literary works, they were talking about the Phaedrus, one of the Platonic dialogues, being a great model of or offering great insights into the age of AI. And one of them, Kirsten, had prepared some talks referencing Phaedrus and just how it previewed, prefaced, predicted artificial intelligence and how it could be used as a tool and what the threats were. I still haven't read the Phaedrus, even though I attended a partial course in it. But I was looking up today because I always knew Plato made references to madness through Socrates and it happens to be in the same text. So I'm hoping that through this podcast we might be inspired to look at some films, look at some literature, and reflect on those ancient ideas behind madness, because I think you're explaining to me that bipolar, the term of bipolar is a relatively new one.
Yes, I don't know how old the term is. We know that the ancients recognised very clearly some of these phenomena, but they don't, I think, necessarily link them up. We could discuss in this series the biological evidence for joining bipolar, that is to say depression and mania, as bipolar. I think that's an important topic because the treatments that these days are available work sometimes well, sometimes not so well for either of these conditions, depression or mania. So, how well does this concept of bipolar really stand up?
Yeah. Well, I think that will be an ongoing theme in these conversations. But I think what I know, I had a quick look at the features. I thought I might get really prepared and come up with some Socratic quotes. But I think there's a split between a kind of biological madness that Socrates talks about, and then a kind of divine one, an inspired one, the madness of prophets and lovers and artists. And I think he bifurcates these two ideas of madness, which I think resonates with me to some extent. But there's this idea of mania, and it's a Greek term, and there's these direct references to it. Mania as a deity, and I think it'll be interesting to talk, and I hope we have future conversations that talk about the Platonic idea of mania, our own experiences of mania or hypomania, that is a step less, and that's crucially the difference between type 1 bipolar and type 2. Type 2 experiences hypomania, and type 1 experiences mania. How would you define in simple terms the difference?
Yes, I think that psychiatrists have decided that there is a line to be drawn between mania and less than mania. How robust that separation is, I can't say at this point, but I think that's well worth exploring. At the other end of the pole, the depression. Depression is, I guess, mild, moderate or severe. All of us have, from time to time, some mild depression. Some of us have moderate depression from time to time, and then a smaller proportion have major depressive illness. But that's all one entity in some ways of looking at it, whereas splitting off mania from hypomania is, I think, more controversial.
Yeah, and it's a line that I think we've both been interested in and kind of been in between recently and well over the last decade and more, and I hope we can explore a bit more of that. But as I look to my Audacity clock, we have breached the 15-minute mark, and I think my timer should go off momentarily. So, initial reflections on the name and maximalist speculative ideas, no doubt, but I hope we can keep the conversation going, and that it sees us become more interested in ourselves and each other as well.
Thanks, B1. It's been terrific.
Okay.
See you next time.
All right. See you next time.